Hey everybody, it's the Shino Duelist here with a deck profile for the Herald of Perfection Fairy deck. This is a ritual deck that, besides summoning out Herald of Perfection with a lot of resources in hand, can summon out Saryuja, Boral Sword, Boral Load, Appaloosa, and usually Christia about 50% of the time. It's pretty consistent and I've really enjoyed playing it. So first off, we're going to start off with 3 Herald of Perfection. He's the centerpiece of the deck. One of the things that he does very well is negate everything. He can negate traps, spells, and effect monsters effects, and it's not once per turn or even once per chain. The cost of this is having to discard 1 fairy monster from your hand to do it. So he's your boss monster, centerpiece of the deck, and we run 3 of them. Next we run 3 Cyber Angel Ben 10. Cyber Angel Ben 10 is pretty much only good for being tributed for the ritual summon of Herald of Perfection, but when she does that you can add 1 light fairy type monster from your deck to your hand. This is essential for the combo because it lets you search out some of your other combo pieces when you summon out Herald of Perfection. Next up we have 3 the Agent of Creation Venus. This card lets you pay 500 life points to special summon 1 Mystical Shine Ball from your hand or deck. This card is great for spamming the field with normal monsters so you can go into Link 4s. And those normal monsters are these Mystic Shine Balls. They're level 2 and light fairies. If you draw them, you can still summon them with Agent of Creation Venus, or you can discard them using Herald of Perfection's effect if you need to. Next up we have a Star Seraph Engine, we have Star Seraph Scepter, and we have Star Seraph Sovereignty. These two in combination with each other, if you have a Scepter and a Sovereignty, lets you put 3 level 4 monsters on the field for an Exceeds or Link Summon. And if you go for the Link Summon up into Decode Talker using Hip Hoshinigan, you will end up with 4 fairies exactly in the graveyard, which lets you summon Archlord Christia using its own effect. And other than that, when you do that, when you summon Star Seraph Sovereignty, you get to draw a card, which is pretty nice to keep your hand filled up. Next we run 3 singles. We run Archlord Christia. It's a great card. You only run 1 because it's searchable, and with that, I mean, there's no reason to run more than 1 because otherwise it's a little bit cloggy. We run 1 Honest to attack over some things. This deck struggles with attacking over large enemies, and Honest kind of helps with that. And lastly we have Manji of the 10,000 Hands. This monster lets you add a ritual monster or ritual spell from your deck to your hand when it's normal summoned. Generally I would not like to use this as my normal summon because I want to save it for Agent of Creation Venus or Star Seraph Scepter, but we need to fill up the deck fully with fairy monsters, and he is another good one. Him and Honest you can decide to cut or do something else if you'd like. And that's it for our monster lineup. It's pretty simple and fairly powerful. I would say the weak links of the deck would be the Star Seraph Scepters and the Manju and Honest. So if you're looking to adjust it or make any changes, maybe make some cuts there. Next up we have our spells. We don't generally run any traps, so we just have spells, and most of it's just consistency to get to your combos. First up we have 3 Pre-Preparation of Rites. This card is a wonderful +1 for the deck that adds a ritual spell and ritual monster, which is going to be Herald of Perfection and its ritual spell from your deck to your hand. It also can add the monster from graveyard to hand if you need to. which can be useful in certain times. It's a wonderful card. I generally don't play ritual decks that can't play it just because you're missing out on so much power. Next up, we run Preparation of Rites. It's very similar to pre-preparation, but you just add one level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Then you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. This one can just search you Herald of Perfection or the Ben 10, but if you generally won't get to use its effects for the spell card because it banishes itself to get an extra effect. Next up, we run 2 Pot of Desires. It's a +1. We run a lot of searching and otherwise 3 ofs. You can get everything you need out of the deck first, then you play this to fill up your hand a little bit so you have more negations. Next up, we've got 3 Called by the Grave. This deck is kind of fragile to hand traps, so if you get some of your searchers Ash Blossomed, it can be really painful. So we play 3 Called by the Grave to stop that from happening. I'm considering cutting it down to just 2. In my last locals, my game where I was in the going for either second or first in the last round. In my first hand, I had 3 Called by the Grave going first with this deck, and it kind of killed me. I couldn't do anything. So it was a little bit rough. I know it doesn't happen, and it's still the right card to play, but it was really frustrating, and I might just cut it down to 2 so that can't happen exactly. Next up, we play 3 Dawn of the Herald. This is the ritual spell card for the deck. It's wonderful. It's a little bit different than some other ritual cards because you have to use exact levels to summon out your Herald of Perfection. You can't go more than 6. It has to be 6 exactly. So keep that in mind when you're playing the deck. Also, when you use it to summon Herald of Perfection, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one of the materials that you use back to your hand. So if you use that, you won't be able to use Preparation of Rites to add it back to your hand, but you usually get a monster back, which is better because you just summoned Herald of Perfection. So just keep that in mind. And next up, we have Ritual Sanctuary and 1 Terraforming. This card is great for searching out the ritual spell, Dawn of the Herald. The only other card in this deck that can do that is Pre-Preparation of Rites. But Ritual Sanctuary can search out Dawn of the Herald or Herald of Perfection or Ben 10 by discarding a spell card. Usually you want to discard Terraforming or another Ritual Sanctuary to get the effect, because your other cards are either Searchers or your Ritual Spell or Called by the Grave, which is also pretty useful. So I'm considering cutting this down some, but I haven't had anything that could fill its position for keeping the deck consistent. Other than that, it's a pretty good card, and it also has another effect where you can shuffle spells back into the deck to summon a monster from your graveyard equal to the amount of spells that you summon back. Its level equal to it. And that can be very useful as well. It doesn't usually come up too often, but it can help for manipulating your graveyard for Christia's level, or amount of fairies in graveyard, or other ways, or just getting monsters on field. Last card, Upstart Goblin. It's a good card for consistency. You can discard with Ritual Sanctuary. Next up, we've got the extra deck. We run 4 Link 4s because we can go into them very easily with our Agent of Creation Venus combo. We run Saryuja Skulldread, which is a main part of our combo, which lets us fix our hand perfectly for the field. So we have fairies in hand for our Herald of Perfection, and it lets us summon out Christia using its own effect. We have Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. It's situationally a wonderful card. It lets you load up the field with even more negates, and I tend not to go into it too much because you already have a bunch of negates with Herald of Perfection, So just usually the answer, but every now and then this comes up where this is what we need to do. And we play 2 Boral Sword or Boral cards. We run Boral Sword and Boral Load. Boral Load is for dealing with hard to deal with monsters that you can steal, and Boral Sword is for finishing the game when you get the chance. Which it's come up plenty of times when I've been playing, and it's very powerful just to close out the game. And it's pretty easy to do that with this deck, with its main combo. We run 1 Link Spider and Imduck for the Mystic Shine Balls. So you use one, make Link Spider, then underneath it use another to make Imduck. Then you have Agent of Creation Venus and another Mystic Shine Ball, so you can go right into Saryuja. Or if you need to make it into effect monsters, you can link the Link Spider or the Imduck into... Actually, I would do the Imduck and a Mystic Shine Ball into maybe a Nightmare card, which is co-linked, and then use that into like Boral Sword or one of the other ones that requires effect monsters only. From there we have our Decode Talker combo. You generally use Hippo Shinigami and Decode Talker when you're using the Star Seraph engine, because that puts 4 fairy monsters in graveyard for your Christia. Or if you already have a fairy in graveyard for one reason or another, you can use Repodoshus. And that combo comes up fairly often. It's not as common as the other one, but it does come up. Next up we run Nightmare Cerberus and Nightmare Phoenix, pretty standard. Then we run some Exceeds. I run the Utopia package because, like I said before, this deck can have a hard time getting over things, and this is a great way to do it. Or just for some extra damage if you have 2 level 4s on the field. Then we have Abyss Dweller, because it's just a wonderful card. And Stellar Knight Deltaros. This is for your Star Seraph engine. It requires 3 level 4s. You put this out, and then your opponent can't respond to your normal or special summons with card effects. And you can pop stuff with it too, which is also pretty nice. Alright, I'm going to demonstrate some of the combos that you can do, just the standard one, and then maybe some of the other ones as well, if I have time. So if you just, say you go first, you draw 5 cards. You can usually go into your normal stuff. So right now we've got Call by the Grave. We drew one of our Shine Balls, which isn't great, but it's okay. We have pre-prep. So I'm comfortable playing Pre-Preparation of Rites. Say the Ash Blossom, you play Call by the Grave, and so it'll go through. So you want to search out Herald of Perfection and your Dawn of the Herald to hand. And from there you have your combo when you have Herald of Perfection, Cyber Angel Ben 10, and Dawn of the Herald. So you can play that. Tribute the Cyber Angel Ben 10, summon the Herald of Perfection. I usually put it far left when it comes to zones. Then in your graveyard you've got your Ben 10 and Dawn of the Herald going off, and you want to do Chain Link 1 Ben 10, Chain Link 2 Dawn of the Herald. So you chain block for Cyber Angel Ben 10. So you would banish this, add this to hand, and then you search out a fairy. If you didn't draw it, you want to add Agent of Creation Venus. If you already have Agent of Creation Venus in your hand, you can grab Christia, so you can summon him with this next part. And now you have your Herald of Perfection on the field, ready to negate things as you try to do this combo. So say you summon Venus and use its effect, and they use Infinite Impermanence. You can discard Cyber Angel Ben 10 or something like that to stop them from doing it. So now you would pay 1,500 life points total, 500 each for the Shine Balls. And then from here you can go into your extra deck for the Link Spider and then Imduck. Now you have to make sure you don't summon Venus into the columns that you're using. Say your opponent has this zone taken up. If you put your Agent of Creation Venus here, you'll have 2 Shine Balls and you won't be able to summon Imduck to that zone. So you have to make sure you put your Agent of Creation somewhere else that's not underneath one of the zones. From there, you can go into Saryuja, or Bulbasaur, or, well, you can go into Appaloosa or Saryuja with that combo. You can also summon out Nightmare, Cerberus, or Phoenix using one of those, or 2 of those, to go into one of the Borals. So generally we go for Saryuja. And Saryuja lets us draw 4. And then reset our hand. At this point, you want to generally leave as many fairies in your hand so you have negations on board. And we didn't draw into any of the other cards we would want, like Star Seraph Scepter or the Christia, but that's okay. We will keep Preparation of Rites and Agent of Creation Venus and Ben 10, and we will shuffle back these 3. We can't activate pre-prep this turn, and we want to keep as much as we can. So from here we play Preparation of Rites, and we will go ahead and add a Herald of Perfection to our hand. So now we have 3 negates in our hand for the upcoming turn. A difference in that combo is if you started with Agent of Creation Venus, or if you drew into Christia when you drew 4 with Skull Dread, that makes this deck strong, is you can just use Skull Dread's effect to just summon Christia, and then you have a bunch of negates and you stop them from special summoning. And that's a pretty standard board. You get it off about 50% of the time, and it can be very strong. And that's it for the main combo. The rest of that is, it doesn't really come up too much, but getting into Saryuja or some of your other Link 4s is pretty easy, because you can always search out Agent of Creation Venus. And even if you didn't use Saryuja's effect, you could summon it with something else, and you had 4 fairies in graveyard anyways. Well, that's it for the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and please leave a comment to let me know what you thought. I'm the Shino Duelist, and I'll see you next time.